Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to the module 5 of the CH course. It's on vulnerability assessment. So if you remember, over the course of last few days, we have taken a session on footprinting, reconnaissance, then enumeration, and using the tools, that are little open source. However, there is a very important stage while you are actually doing ethical hacking over a particular target, which is called vulnerability assessment. This particular session would have more detailed, inputs on while analyzing a vulnerability. So you would see that some of the content is getting repeated. But additionally, we'll let you know as to what other tools and databases you could actually search and make them as part of your research. So I would actually mention some of the topics. So participants who are actually joining today, after attending this session, you should be able to understand various research, that how it is done, how you can classify vulnerabilities. So anything out there in the open and is being called as vulnerability is identified with the help of a number. Okay. And it has a very detailed description, and it has a lot of information which is related to it, which can help us in doing triages and doing further analysis and research on it. So then you should be able to describe this kind of an assessment. So vulnerability, any kind of a vulnerability actually has a life cycle. So what steps you can take to manage it. Then there are different approaches to this assessment. Then we would describe as to what uh, you know uh, characteristics of a good assessment tools are there. Then how you can actually select a tool for the assessment. Then how you generate these reports for the documentation and further reporting. So we would cover some concepts, some of the solutions, and various scoring systems and tools and reports. So what actually an assessment is? So in a 3-point format, I have given the definition on the slide. So it's like examination of a system's ability to withstand an attack. So once you get a vulnerability assessment report, you normally have some kind of a dashboard of all the systems that are there in your corporate network or in your home, of the various devices. And this kind of an assessment is used to identify these weaknesses that might be exploited. So you would actually see that whenever you use automated tools, they would actually only assess the technology part. Okay. Additionally, you always will have to assess the do this kind of an assessment on people and process as well. So let's see what kind of effective controls are there, security controls are there that can help you in predicting the effectiveness of this assessment. So in vulnerability research, you actually gather info on trends, threats, and the attacks. So being a penetration tester or a certified ethical hacker, you should always be on top of what is the latest that is going on in the world, and you should be aware that basically by following the news or by reading the magazines and all those things. Okay, you should be able to find out the design faults and weakness before actually conducting an attack itself. So and if you are one of the victims who actually has faced such kind of an attack, then from this kind of a research you should be able to recover also faster. Generally you would see that vulnerabilities are classified as on the basis of priority, the severity, and their scope. So there is a very famous website called cvdetails.com. So if you would actually visit that website, you will see that they actually publish quite a detailed information on how these vulnerabilities are distributed by taking their CVSS scores. So you would see, okay, let me just, I have this website open in one of the tabs. So if you go to cvdetails.com, you can search for vulnerabilities based on its CV ID, any product, the vendor, or the vulnerability type. And based on the scores, you would see that how many number of vulnerabilities this particular database has. Okay, based on the score. So you, if you see 0 to 1 actually has minimum impact, and the one which is like somewhere which is falling between 9 and 10 has a critical impact. And the percentage is also given here. Okay, and if you want to search for vendors, products by date and type also, you can search. And there are some additional searches from other databases such as finding Microsoft references is also there. Then some additional resources for doing vulnerability research are obviously sans.org. Then Microsoft itself has their database. Then there are some magazines like security magazines, Security Focus, Hackerstorm, Exploit Database. If you remember, we took some examples of Google docking and writing some custom queries to find out devices on the internet. Okay, or the websites. Then CV details I've already mentioned. And there are websites such as dark reading. Also, you can keep visiting these websites regularly. So normally in a company, whatever tools are there with you, they need to be updated with some kind of a signature database that they have. And usually these tools have inherent capability of searching for vulnerability based on these signatures. So they might not be able to detect 0-day vulnerabilities, but only those vulnerabilities which have already been discovered and are reported in such kind of databases by the community. So when we talk about classifying the vulnerabilities, you would see that they happen because of some misconfigurations, or because of some default values that you left in a configuration, or you did not change the default passwords, or you did not map the default ports to other ports for services. Also they are classified based on the attack that can happen on them, like such as buffer overflows or some unpatched systems. Maybe they had some maybe a software had some design flaw. Also there might be some kind of an operating system flaw because of which something became a vulnerability. Application themselves have some kind of flaws, and the open services. So broadly, and there might be more categories in which you can put the, vulnerabilities, but generally you would find these the ones that I've listed on the slide. Some of the approaches for doing these assessments are passive scanning, like you can just sit and observe, or you can passively sniff the data on the network, or you can actively probe a target, and you can perform specially crafted requests. If you remember, I gave you an example of crafting packets with the help of a tool called hping3. So that kind of a crafting and custom packets can be designed with the help of tools also. And some of the tools which might be paid, and the pro versions of these kind of tools might be paid. So but with the help of those tools also, you could actively test a target. And these databases only give you the ones that I've highlighted, these databases that give you only some kind of a report, which is only like an information. So they report almost you know any maximum possible vulnerabilities that are present in a system. But whether a particular vulnerability is exploitable or not, they don't report that. So that you will have to perform penetration testing on the live systems to validate whether a particular vulnerability can be exploited or not. But how would you do that? How would you narrow your scope? So in that case, this kind of an assessment is really, really beneficial. Generally, to marketing teams, what they do is like, even if there are some false positives, they would actually include that in the reports of these automated tools. Okay, and they usually have some kind of limitations. So they can only search for known signatures. You might be aware that how anti-virus works, that there are some known reported signatures out in the open, and these databases are regularly updated. And if you have installed some kind of a tool in your environment, then you have to regularly get these updates so that you can perform new scans, based on the frequency that is defined in the security policy that you have. So it might be monthly scans or weekly scans based on the amount of attacks that you get on your network. But always remember that these tools will only report, and they are just the start of this exercise. And you will have to perform a penetration test to determine if that particular system for which a vulnerability is reported can actually be exploited. Okay. And some of the fragile systems are also reported, and if there can be some interference with the normal operations also, that also can be reported in the tool. Always you have to get in contact with IT teams, for them to allow you to do these exercises, so that it does not interrupt other BAU activities like business as usual. So what are these scanners? What do they search for? So from the previous sessions also, you should be able to recollect that these tools will help you in determining the OS and service versions, all of the open ports, then the protocols that are in use, what all applications are installed on the network or systems or devices. Then some they can actually go one step further to determine whether a particular password is weak or not, or a particular permission is a default or not. Then if some of the systems that are being assessed are not misconfigured, and if there are some known vulnerabilities, with the help of the database that they have, or by matching the signatures, they can report on known vulnerabilities. That is what they search for, these scanners. So various type of assessments that can be done. Passive is there, active assessment is there. Then these tools also help you in doing external and internal assessments. You can also do host based and network based assessments, whether the network is wired or wireless, and also application type of assessment you can do. So that's what happens as per stages, if you would like to put it. That first information is gathered, then you do threat modeling. If you remember, I told you that as part of threat modeling, you list down all the risks which are there. Sorry, all the vulnerabilities that are there, then all the threat vectors or the attack vectors which are there. Then you do some kind of a scoring, then you multiply it with the impact and you calculate the risk. So you would then there is a stage called vulnerability analysis, and after vulnerability analysis, you actually take a step of exploiting or maintaining the access in post exploitation phase, and finally there is reporting. So what you would find while using assessment tools is that they usually stop at step three. So after step three, you will have to perform penetration test and do the exploitation and other things. But tools like Nessus, I was reading that it can do go further and it can help you in simulating the attacks as well while generating those reports. And maybe it would probably help you in with some kind of a detail which can help you maintaining some kind of a backdoor. So until unless it is closed by a blue team in your company, you will have to you can leave that backdoor and you can sneak into the system again and again to get good scores in red teaming activities if you're doing that. So as far as life cycle of a vulnerability is concerned, so what you do is first you create a baseline. So in that baseline, you identify and prioritize the critical assets. So identify what existing controls, the security controls that you've defined in your policies are there and do exist. And then for your assessment, you come out with a scope that what all things you will cover and what you will not cover in your assessment. After that, vulnerability assessment is done. So you actually go and test those weaknesses that were listed. Okay. And it's not only technology with the help of tools that you would assess, but also the people, the weakest link in the security chain and the processes. It's the way a particular business is performed. That particular process is also tested. After that, you do a risk assessment by determining the impact. Okay, like normally impact has a score and you have a probability of a particular threat and you multiply them to give the final score so that you can prioritize the future course of actions as to what should be done first and what should be remediated next. And might also do some kind of a root cause analysis to mitigate these threats. Then you do verification, and then you would design some kind of rules and feed your intrusion detection systems or firewalls and apply whatever you learned from this kind of an assessment. And this goes on and on with whatever frequency which is there, okay, and is defined in the company. So any common vulnerability scoring system, you know, you might be aware that there is a common vulnerability scoring system, which is an open framework, and it communicates characteristics as well as impact of known vulnerabilities. And you would see that to measure a particular vulnerability, it lists down three kind of matrices. One is base metrics, another one is temporal metrics, and the environmental metrics. And as I showed you on CVE details, you have some kind of a scoring which is done. And then there is a national vulnerability database, which is actually created by US. Okay. And I'll just show it to you. But the thing that I would want you to know about these matrices is that a vulnerability has some kind of inherent quality. Okay, and you want to actually give it some kind of a score. So anything that is there, if it is not measured or if it is not given a number, you won't be able to do any kind of an analysis on that. Then over a life cycle, because of some of the features that are changing, because of those changes, if you have to give some numbers to them, that also some weightage, and that is covered under temporal metrics. And the environment in which a particular system or an application or a device is there, how that environment actually affects, that is also given some kind of a score or a number. So before coming on to a final score, you would perform or add values from these matrices and then go ahead with it. So there's a website called nvd.nist.gov, and it actually maintains a repository, a standards based repository for all vulnerabilities which have been discovered by them. Okay, and they follow this it uses a security content automation protocol to collect this information. It also enables automation of the management, vulnerability management, and it also aggregates the data from CVSS. Okay, as I mentioned, common vulnerability scoring system. Then you have common weakness enumeration, common platform enumeration. So from all of these platforms, it aggregates the data, but it does not perform the actual tests. That has to be done by people who are reading or going and searching on these databases. So let me show you the website. So it's like nvd.nist.gov. Okay, as you can see, last 20 vulnerability IDs and summaries are given here. So you would see that they have a format, like they name give a identification to a vulnerability, and some kind of a summary is also given. And if you can click on the link, you can go and read about it. Then based on the score, you would see that it has been given a color. So something that is 10 is high, and something that is 9.8 is critical. Okay, and it has also published the dates on which it was actually listed. So this is the one which was latest that they have. Okay, then there is a dashboard which you can actually go and have a look at. So if there are CVs that have been received and processed, so you would say that today none, and this week new CVs received a 51, and this kind of a statistics. And then on the right hand side, you can see the distribution by severity. So with their numbers, so how many were high, how many were medium. Okay, so you would use this in your threat intelligence activities to have a high level overview. Then you have statistics on status count, and then you have some kind of a checklist. There are also some alerts and notes that you can go through. Okay, just a sec. Yeah, so there are severity ratings, like, and there was a version 2.0 rating. Okay, and then there's a version 3.0 rating. And this earlier, the base score range, how they were defined, is listed on the left hand side, and the base score range which now is being followed in new specification is listed on the right hand side. And I actually went to this page from the first page of this website. So you can do a search and statistic. You can look at the full listing. Okay, and these are the calculators, like version 3 calculators are there, version 2 calculators are there. So you can have a look. So as I told you, that being a ethical hacker, you need to be really updated as to what is going on, and any news through any Twitter feed you have, or any other Google alerts that you have set, or any other magazine in which you would find these news, you will have to go and do some kind of a research, so that before even an attack can happen in your company, you can scan with the help of these tools and do an assessment on technology. And if there is something which is related to people and process, that also can be figured out from such researches or assessments. So if you remember, there was I've just taken one example on a recent SolarWinds exploit that happened. wherein hackers were able to get into the federated systems. So that was reported under CV 2020-14-007. And when a little bit of further research was done, so they have a platform called Orion. So it helps them to manage performance of various devices and the systems on the network. So and I mentioned SolarWinds also on in our sessions also. So over that, if you want to do further more research, let's say SolarWinds exploitation happened. Basically, there's a team called company called FireEye. They published actually some resources on the internet. Their pen testing team had some kind of a tool collection, which was actually acquired by a group. It was an apt group, advanced persistent threat, and then they actually use those tools to gain uh, uh, access, and they stole some data because they could apply an infected software as part of their development life cycle. Okay. So when a further research is done on that, it was found that related to this kind of an exploit was actually already NSA, if you are aware, they actually already issued an advisory on that way back on, I think, December 7 or 8. So which was uh, classified as CV 2020-4006. So it relates to uh, exploiting the identity management configuration settings in VMware Workspace. So if you go and look at that, what kind of exploit was could have been used, then and if you want to have a look at the advisory, that is also there. So this is one of the advisories wherein they say that this particular activity was Russian state sponsored actors by Russian state sponsored actors. So they actually used a VMware Workspace one access. Okay. And in such advisories, you will have summary, and it would relate to the software versions, operating system versions, and you would see that there are some patches or mitigation actions that are also published in such advisories. So if before an attack, I think this particular attack happened after December 18th, and still the systems are trying to recover. But if these patches would have been timely applied, and these instructions would have been timely followed, then it would have helped to mitigate or to actually avoid such kind of exploitation. So you would see that these advisories are very detailed, and even patching steps are also discussed, and they are published in a manner that I have like shown it to you. So this was, if you see in the address bar, it is like December 7 published advisory. Okay. Let's move on to the next slide. So normally this CVE that I was telling you, it actually helps us in identifying a vulnerability precisely. And the website is cve.mitra.org. So you can have much more detailed look whenever you have some time for the same. Okay. As far as types of tools that are concerned, that are there to do such kind of an assessment, are more or less they are like scanners, and you can actually find out that they are host based. Okay. Or they can do some kind of a depth assessment by doing some fuzzing. They can create some fuzzy inputs, and you can use those fuzzed inputs to interactively find out the types of vulnerabilities which are there. Okay, and under host page, you would see that it would help you in detecting OS about OSs, services, apps, their versions, even up to the level of patches, the patch levels, and also the information on configurations. Also, there are these type of some of the tools are network based, and they collect information on protocols, ports, access control lists, firewall rules, and various rules from IDS and the detection systems and prevention systems. Now, these types I have listed them separately, but these all kind of uh, info can be collected with the help of a single tool itself, or there might be a framework or a suite of tools that can help you in finding out this information. So when you want to actually assess, wait, I don't know if it's visible or not. Yeah. So let's say you have, like, there are so many tools today in the market that you don't know which one to choose, whether you want to choose a commercial tool or you want to choose an open source, or maybe you want to choose a collection of tools which can help you in really being updated with the latest that is present, and you actually do not want to be part of a zero-day attack. Okay, tool that you choose. Okay, and that will help you in determining only the information about technology, but as part of a solution, when you want any kind of a solution that you design, it should have these characteristics. So ensure that you get good outcomes by testing. As I said, that you eventually will have to test. You might get reports, you might get false positive negatives and all that. However, while testing, you should see that any kind of a solution, if you're a solution provider, then any kind, or as a part of team also, if you're providing solutions internally, then you need to uh, cover these aspects which are listed on the slides. Okay, so you should be able to follow a good solution will have interface based approach. Then you should be able to draw an inventory of protocols. Then a set of tools should be able to detect open ports, the services that are there, and with the help of whatever signature database is there, you should be able to identify those services behind the ports, check for those vulnerabilities, then validate them in your report as part of pen testing activities. You need to validate, see what all can be automated, and it should be there as part of solution. Then usually these signature database need to be updated regularly, and basically not only one kind of a network such a solution should cover, but it should be able to cover all almost all that is present there in a company, like network or host types. Then a solution should provide a proper remedy, and if a particular remedy is not at all possible at a particular moment, then there should be some suggestion on the workarounds. And as part of red teams, you should be able to simulate outside attacks the way an attacker would do. And when these reports are created, okay, they should be customized in such a way that they become actionable for a company or an organization or a team. So any report those that these tools might give you, or the formats in which it is given, they might not be proper as per your requirement. So you will have to probably customize and create them in such a way that some kind of an action can be taken on them. It is usually very difficult to convince teammates, management, and other stakeholders. So any solution that you design should have some kind of a space to customize and create actionable reports. Okay. So some of the common tools the list is there, and some of them will cover in the lab also tomorrow. Okay, you can see that there is a tool called Qualys, GFI LandGuard. GFI LandGuard is there in the lab document also. It's a paid tool. Then Expose, OpenVAS is there. Nikto is there. Nikto is by default installed in Kali. Okay, then you have Nessus. So Nessus had earlier, they had a free version, but now you have to actually download an evaluation version from Tenable. Then there is a tool called Saint, and I heard that there is a tool called Satan also. Okay, and then you have Microsoft's MBSA, then Core Impact, and then NStalker, Acunetics, Secuna, Burp Suite. Yeah, Burp Suite is something that is like inbuilt in browser itself. Okay, like on top of a browser, it is designed, so it helps you in uh, basically it can be used as a proxy. Like you can intercept requests that go to a web applications, and you can craft those web requests in a way you want them to be. You can also do some password spraying, and it has a lot of features with the or you know the features that help you in simulating a real-time attack. Then obviously Nmap, we have covered so many commands from Nmap. The GUI version we have discussed, like Zenmap is there, then Scanline and NS Auditor, they're also there. And this is not a very exhaustive list, only some common tools that are there. But if you are at a stage wherein you don't know which one to start with, probably you can start with something that is by default available or an open source. And as part of funded exercise in a company, you can probably understand the trial version, evaluate them based on the features that I have listed on the previous slides. Okay, the characteristics that are there to select a tool are already listed on the previous slide, as I mentioned. Okay, so normally a set of one tool or a set of tool is usually selected with some kind of a scoring mechanism. You can design those templates, give them scores and the features that are more relevant and more uh, contextual to the problems that you are solving as of now. So it depends, and between organizations and organizations. So some of the common report elements that you would find in these tools, that they provide an executive summary, then some major findings they should be able to report, then scan information. Okay, so I said that you might not use one tool or two tools, you might use multiples, but whenever you create reports, these are some important elements that you should take care of that makes them actionable. Okay, you should have detailed information of target, then some of the results from your scans, and they even if you have the target details, then which node was it. Node relates to a device or a system. Okay, then that had which OS it had, the date, which modules you were using, then what outcomes you found, and against which services and ports. Then based on the classification uh, types, and they that was not an exhaustive list, you can have your own internal categories that which makes the report more readable and understandable according to the context in which you are trying to assess or do this kind of a research. And then that should have a summary. A report should have a summary. And under assessment, you can actually define what methodology you took or what kind of an approach you took under assessment. So this is just one example. So I've taken this from internet. Okay. So this is like a report from Nessus scan, which we would be covering in our labs. So you can see that it right now in this particular screenshot, you might not be able to see some suggestions. okay, because some of the checks were not enabled for the Unix and Windows compliance. But from left hand side, you can see that particular vulnerability which was discovered with which plugin. The plugin ID is also mentioned, and on the left hand side, you can see the severity has a column, and then there is a name that is given to it. So normally, these kind of tools will develop the databases, the signature databases from the databases that are there on the internet, which the community is using. Okay, and as you can see that it has listed down, it has been given some name like MS10012 vulnerabilities, and SMB could allow remote code execution. Okay, so like we have covered various threats and attack vectors already. So some might be known to you, some might not be known to you, but it is best to include all of them. Okay. So this covered this particular session actually covered various approaches, the types, the classification that is done, and in summary, again I would say vulnerabilities are like weaknesses in a system, and these tools that you are using might give you some kind of false positives also, and they will never actually test until unless some kind of a pro tool which has that inbuilt capability of simulating the attacks. Okay, but you will always have to do maximum part by yourself, like as penetration tester, uh, and you would define your scope, and you would define your targets only after doing a detailed research and assessment, as I have shown it to you. So they must be validated. These vulnerabilities are exploitable or not, they must be validated. Okay, and as far as these scanners are concerned, so they can only search for vulnerabilities that have already been discovered. They might not help you in discovering something that has not yet happened. Okay, so these were the main points that I wanted to highlight at the end of this